Okay, hello. My name's Tyler. This is Panda, and this is a talk for Professor Orr's Human Sexuality class. And I just want to acknowledge that I am on Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee traditional lands. I am grateful to be here, and I look to improve my relationship with the environment and the people of this land. Especially as a white male, I feel that responsibility. And the more I learn about colonialism, the more I see the effects and the systemic inequalities that have been created out of that patriarchal system. We'll get into that a little more. Our talk today is on intersectionality. So, what is intersectionality? It's a big word, it's got big value. I didn't really know what it was before, but we talked about it a lot in regards to gender and gender identity and race and all of the different paths or roads that people walk in their lifetime have different challenges, and the intersection of these challenges can combine and create more hardship for people with more complex heritage, environment, socioeconomic status. So where did intersectionality start? It came from Kimberle Crenshaw. She was in Harvard University, and there was a lack of diversity on the faculty staff in the early 80s. I think there was one full-time tenured Black professor out of 60 professors. I listened to Kimberle Crenshaw's podcast called Intersectionality Matters. Went on a little deep dive there. So the creation of the word intersectionality, it came out of that educational milieu of discrimination against race and gender in Harvard University. She organized one of the biggest protests on the campus, and in classic prejudiced fashion, the dean thought it was a white male who organized it. But that was a friend of Crenshaw's, and he directed the dean to her as the activist change coordinator. Out of this educational reform came critical race theory, and we can see the discrimination and how it affects minorities around the world in different systems. So in her podcast, she talks, what podcast was it? It was part 1, called United States of Amnesia, The Real Histories of CRT, Critical Race Theory, the students who protested. She talks about in the 80s with de Graffenried versus General Motors, a classic example of discrimination. There were no Black women hired at the company, and the company had met its legal obligations for equitable hiring because they had Black men working in the company, and they had white women in administration. Therefore, they met their requirements to be hiring women and Black people. But this excluded the intersection of Black women. So Crenshaw noted this, and it led to civil rights movements and removing of systemic barriers against contemporary groups like the queer trans community. Goodbye, Panda. So I learned a lot about this when I was researching, and it's incredibly fruitful. It made me think about updates on critical race theory, thinking about tribal critical race theory and indigenous theories, and how the discrimination against them has perpetuated their situation. Intersectionality is a great perspective. It's a lens to view the weaknesses of society so that we can look to strengthen the populations that need the most help. And I'm going to read Kimberle Crenshaw's quote. So, intersectionality is a lens through which you can see where power comes and collides, where it interlocks and intersects, It's not simply that there's a race problem here, a gender problem here, and a class or LGBTQ problem there. Many times that framework erases what happens to people who are subject to all of these things. So I just wanted to thank you for listening to my talk on intersectionality today, and I hope that I gave you a little story with it, and I just want to remember the people involved in this. So this is Kimberle Crenshaw. And this is a diagram on intersectional identities. All of these things can combine to create more challenges or less opportunity, more opportunity. It all depends. So thank you for listening to my talk today. Peace, love, happiness, health.